Morning. A friend of mine asked me to make a video um, and talk about um, how I cope with the current crisis and to really speak to people that are not people of faith like I am, to, to just share how I view things that enables me to deal with what's going on. And I'd like to do that. I want you to know that the only reason that I'm sharing this with you, not just because my friend asked me to, but because I believe it's true. I would never share anything with another person, even if I thought it would help them, if I didn't believe with all that I am that it's true. Because if it's not true, then whatever help that it gives is only temporary and it's actually an illusion. And it won't stand the test of time. It won't endure. So I believe it's true, and it's not just that it works, it goes beyond works. It actually enables and empowers. I'm speaking of faith, but I have to, first of all, define the context of faith and why faith is necessary, and it's because of purpose. Really, the current crisis that we're facing with COVID-19 all over the world, there have been plagues and wars that have affected people all over the world in history. We just happen to be in a point in history, one of those crux times when the entire world is suffering and the entire world is living in fear. There are different things that cause fear on such a large proportion. Such a wide area that crosses different socioeconomic boundaries. Terrorism is one of those things that's now in the back of our minds. Everywhere we go, every day that we live now with that underlying fear of terrorist attack. I guess in the Cold War it was more nuclear threat that people lived with. They carried it around with them. The difference with this COVID-19 fear is not just something that we think might happen, it actually is happening all around us. And because of the technology that we now have in social media, we know in real time how fast this is growing and spreading, the number of deaths and things like that. And so it creates not just a sense of possible doom coming, but we actually see it coming, the great potential for it. But that fear is not just the fear of suffering. It's not even just the fear of death, as great as it is. There's a fear that underlines those fears, that undergirds those fears and makes them so potent and so potentially disabling and leading to dysfunction in our daily lives and the way we see ourselves, the way we see life. And that is the fear of purposelessness. Many different writers and artists, musicians have tried to depict this, but there is the deepest fear that a person can feel is the fear that life is meaningless, that there's no reason behind it, there's no reason for it, that we just come and go, and basically, apart from trying to make the world a better place, whatever that means, during our brief sojourn here on this planet, there's really no purpose, because eventually, if there's no reason, if there's no purpose, then eventually all of this goes. Because of the law of entropy, the second law of thermodynamics, eventually the energy will be dissipated in this universe and no longer usable, and there'll be no more life. It will all be destroyed. However that happens, however long it takes, that is the end. And so there's no purpose. That is the root of all of our fear, the deepest root of all of our fear. And the thing is that is not true. There is a purpose. Everything doesn't end in silence. God made all things for a purpose. And God made you and I for a purpose, as part of his great purpose. Now, don't read into that God makes all things happen. God made this COVID-19 virus happen for a purpose. No. The world is a place of fallenness and brokenness because of mankind's choice to rebel against God's reign and against God's purpose for their lives, for our lives. And that rebellion has led to incredible consequences in the earth. And then there are also just natural things. The way God made the world, naturally there are cycles in it and things that happen. But God, in the end, when all of this is gone, God is going to wrap it all up. He's going to bring it to conclusion. He's going to bring justice. He's going to make all things right in the end. There's a sign in the States somewhere now where someone's put up all over this little town, everything will be okay. And if you just look at it from a humanistic point of view, that's absolutely not true. Everything will not be okay. Ultimately, everything will go bad. But if you see it through the eyes of faith and the purpose that I'm talking about for which God made us all, then God will make everything okay. It doesn't mean that suffering is an illusion and just pretend that it's not there and it won't be real. No, it is real. Injustice is real. The innocent suffer. But in the end, God is going to bring justice and he's going to make it right. He's going to bring everything to a right conclusion. Now, the question is whether we are going to submit to his rule and acknowledge his right reign in our lives and become a part of his purpose. Because we have to choose. He's given us the choice. Everything else that's created doesn't have a choice. Ultimately, it will become a part of God's purpose. But you and I, he's made us in his image. We are basically spirit. And we have a soul and a body. But God has given us an ability to choose whether we will be part of his purpose or not. That actually is necessary for there to be real love. There must be a choice. And he spoke to us through Jesus Christ, who is his word. When God wanted to tell us what his purpose was and how we could be part of that purpose, there was no better way for him to do it than through Jesus Christ. So if you don't know what he said and what he did, you can find out. And I would encourage you to do that, because that journey, that seeking, will ultimately lead to your understanding truth. And that truth, through that truth, you'll hear the voice of Christ, and that will bring faith. Faith will be born, which will link you to God's purpose for your life and God's purpose in all things. And that faith will neutralize the fear that you're experiencing now. Thanks for listening.